Hello students, I am Sunil Ranjan and I am an English teacher. In this session, I have come up with the poem The Love Song of J.Alfred Prufrock by T.S.Eliot. Now, in the beginning of a poem, you see an epigraph of 6 lines. Well, first let me tell you about the epigraph. The epigraph of this poem is a 6-line quotation from Canto 27 of the Inferno by the Renaissance Italian poet Dante Alighieri. Eliot leaves it as it is and doesn't translate it into English. It shows his obsession with Dante, and maybe he thought other people loved Dante as much as he did, and they would translate the quote for themselves. The Inferno tells the story of how a person has messed up his life to require some help from the nice persons in heaven. In order to scare him away from sin and other bad things, heaven sends another poet named Virgil to give Dante a guided tour through the horrors of hell, which is known as Inferno in Italian. Along the way, he meets a lot of evil and misguided people. T.S.Eliot started writing Prufrock in 1910. It was published in the 1915 issue of Poetry, a magazine of verse. Prufrock is the inner monologue of a city gentleman who is stricken by feelings of isolation and inadequacy and an incapability of taking decisive action. Now I move on to lines from 1 to 36. Well, I begin. Alfred Prufrock, a presumably middle-aged, intellectual, indecisive man, invites the reader along with him through the modern city. He describes the street scene and notices a social gathering of women discussing Renaissance artist Michelangelo. He describes yellow smoke and fog outside the house of the gathering and keeps insisting that there will be time to do many things in the social world. The title of the poem is Eliot's first hint that this is not a traditional love poem at all. J.Alfred Prufrock is a word that makes no sense. The original title was Prufrock Among the Women. This emasculation contributes to a number of themes Eliot will explore revolving around paralysis and heroism, but the name also has personal meaning for Eliot. He wrote the poem in 1909 while a graduate student at Harvard. Eliot uses J.Alfred Prufrock as an alter ego to explore his own emotions. Eliot was a young man in 1909, while Prufrock is balding and probably middle-aged. Eliot disdained poetry that focused on the poet himself. Eliot sets aside his personality by setting Prufrock in the poetic form of a dramatic monologue. In this form, the speaker addresses another person and the reader plays the part of the silent listener. Often the dramatic monologue is filled with irony. The poem Prufrock is blended with allusions to the Greeks, Shakespeare, the metaphysicals, and more. Eliot does not neglect the modern, however, it is often front and center, usually with unfavorable comparisons to the past. Prufrock is on earth in a lonely, alienating city. The images of the city are sterile and deathly. The night sky looks like a patient etherized upon a table, while down below barren, half-deserted streets reveal one-night cheap hotels and sawdust restaurants. We go from a general look at the skyline to the streets to a hotel room to sawdust covered floors in restaurants. This debasement continues throughout the poem, both literally in the images and figuratively in the emotional associations for Prufrock. The images all speak to some part of Prufrock's personality. The etherized patient, for instance, reflects his paralysis, his inability to act, while the images of the city depict a certain lost loneliness. Then there is switch over to the yellow fog that rubs its back upon the window panes in the second stanza. Although Eliot said the fog was suggestive of the factory smoke from his hometown, St. Louis, the associations with the cat are obvious. Eliot was arguably the greatest lover of cats ever to write poetry, but here such correlation seems undesirable. The fog cat seems to be looking in on the room full of fashionable women, talking of Michelangelo. Unable to enter, it lingers pathetically on the outside of the house, and we can imagine Prufrock avoiding, yet desiring physical contact in much the same way. Eliot again uses an image of physical debasement to explore Prufrock's self-pitying state. The cat goes down from the high window panes to the corners of the evening, to the pools that stand in drains. Lets soot from the high chimneys fall on his back. It then leaps from the terrace to the ground. While Eliot appreciated the dignity of cats, this particular soot-blackened cat does not seem so dignified. Rather, the cat appears weak, non-confrontational, and is afraid to enter the house. Eliot's tired helplessness in such a situation comes to the fore here. Images and allusions are not the only fragmented features of Prufrock. The rhythm of the lines is deliberately irregular. At times in unrhymed free verse, Eliot occasionally rhymes for long stretches and then not at all. His rhyme scheme itself seems like the confusing streets that follow like a tedious argument. He also twice uses the refrain of "In the room the women come and go," talking of Michelangelo, and often begins lines with the word "and," as the word found in 3 of these lines implies times. The repetition has something to do with Prufrock's relationship with time. Prufrock remains indecisive and time yet for 100 decisions and for 100 visions and revisions before taking the toast and tea. He seems rooted in the present tense, and this, according to Eliot and most modernists, is an unhealthy approach to time. As the image of the cat unable to penetrate the house suggests, Prufrock cannot make a decision and act on it. Instead of a flowing duration that integrates time in all its phases, he is imprisoned in the present. Prufrock's anxiety is rooted in the social world. Not only is he afraid to control the woman talking of Michelangelo, he seems intimidated by the social posturing he must engage in. There will be time to prepare a face to meet the faces that you meet. There will be time to murder and create, and time for all the works and days of hands that lift and drop a question on your plate. The works and days of hands is a reference to 8th century BC Greek poet Hesiod's poem about the farming year. Works and days. Prufrock seems to resent the divergence between the blistered hands of hard-working farmers and the smooth ones of social players. just as he dislikes the masks people wear in the social arena. His social anxiety assumes more importance in the middle part of the poem. Now I move on to lines 37 to 86. Prufrock tortures himself over his social actions, worrying over how others will see him. He thinks about women's arms and perfume, but does not know how to act. He walks through the streets and watches lonely men leaning out their windows. The day passes at a social engagement, but he is not able to muster the strength to act, and he admits that he is afraid. Prufrock diagnoses his social paralysis in these 6 stanzas. His descending stairs is an occasion for magnified self-scrutiny and the fear that he will disturb the universe. He continues asking himself questions about how to behave, but admits he will reverse these decisions soon. His inaction is constantly tied to the social world. Should I, after tea and cakes and ices, have the strength to force the moments to its crisis? The somewhat silly rhyme here underscores the absurdity of Prufrock's concerns. Eliot comments on Prufrock's character and makes his worries, however trivial, human. Prufrock twice refers to his balding head, describes his plain, middle-aged clothing, and draws us into his point of view of the social world. His eyes are specific in their observation. Arms that are braceleted and white and bare, but in the lamplight downed with light brown hair. Although the first line is an allusion to the line, a bracelet of bright hair above the bone from John Donne's poem The Relic, a line Eliot admires for its sharp contrast in his essay, The Metaphysical Poets. As detailed as Prufrock's eyes are, he feels the effects of the penetrating social gaze far more deeply. And I have known the eyes already, known them all, the eyes that fix you in a formulated phase. And when I am formulated, sprawling on a pin, when I am pinned and wriggling on the wall. Sprawling on a pin refers to the practice of pinning insect specimens for study, suggesting Prufrock feels similarly examined. As for the arms that are braceleted and white and bare, Prufrock isolates the body part from the rest of the body. Detached, the eyes multiply in power. They dominate both the room and the bodies of those who look at Prufrock. Anxiety is an important concern with the future, and Prufrock continues to show his inability to advance in time. Of the 6 stanzas here, 4 begin with "and", while 5 lines at the end of different stanzas suggest a repetitive present tense. Prufrock's refrain, "and indeed there will be time," is an allusion to metaphysical poet Andrew Marvell's To His Coy Mistress, where he says, "Had we but world enough and time," in which the speaker urges his lady to speed up their courtship. As with most of Eliot's allusions in Prufrock, the Marvell reference is ironic. Rather than hurrying his lady, Prufrock makes excuses for himself. He assures himself there will be time to act, although his repetitive, weak nature has so far gone wrong. Not only is Prufrock paralyzed in the moment, at the present, but he seems to have a disordered sense of time. He describes the evenings, mornings, afternoons. Primarily, he describes a cycle from night to the next day, reinforcing the idea of repetition. Its abrupt switch from evenings to mornings Prufrock goes down the stairs, and as he watches smoke rising from pipes and lonely men leaning out windows, just then he feels he should have been a pair of ragged claws scuttling across the floors of silent seas. This final alliterative image of degradation, the third animal association for Prufrock after the cat and insect connection, paints a pathetic portrait of Prufrock. Prufrock's inclination to move backwards and downwards is suggestive of his closeness to death, of his going down into hell. The Dante epigraph in the beginning casts a deathly pallor over the entire poem, and Prufrock himself sees the eternal footman hold my coat and snicker, while he says in the next line, in short, I was afraid, in reference to his fear of social act. Prufrock's wonder is here. He wonders if after various social gestures it would have been worthwhile to act decisively if it resulted in a woman's rejection of him. He thinks he is not a Prince Hamlet figure, but a secondary character in life. Worried over growing old, he adopts the fashions of youth. By the beach, he sees images of mermaids singing and swimming. The movement in the final section of the poem swings from fairly concrete, realistic scenes from the social world. After the cups, after the marmalade, the tea, after the novels and the teacups, after the skirts that trail along the floor, to fantastic images of mermaids riding seaward on the waves, combing the white hair of the waves, blown black. Eliot's objective grows from vague. What exactly does Prufrock feel here? Perhaps Prufrock himself is unsure. It is impossible to say just what I mean, but as if a magic lantern threw the nerves in patterns on a screen. His own inarticulacy results in the magic lantern's wild kaleidoscopic imagery of teacups and mermaids. Aside from desperation and loneliness, confusion is one of the main emotional associations. But Prufrock shows a wise self-regard when he admits he is not Prince Hamlet, nor was meant to be, and an attendant lord, one that will do, to swell a progress, start a scene or two, advise the prince, no doubt, an easy tool, deferential, glad to be of use, politic, cautious, and meticulous. Hamlet, Shakespeare's famous tragic heroine, is literature's another great indecisive man. The allusion is to Hamlet's restlessness, whether to kill his stepfather or hold off for a variety of reasons. The allusion is somewhat ironic, since Prufrock is not even as decisive as Hamlet is. Prufrock comes off as a mock hero. Even the absence of an I preceding "am an attendant lord" expresses his lack of confidence. The numerous pauses from commas and semicolons in this stanza underscore Prufrock's stagnation and paralysis. The only thing in Prufrock's life not paralyzed is time. It marches on, and Prufrock laments, I grow old, I grow old, I shall wear the bottoms of my trousers rolled. The rolled trouser, a popular carefree style at the time, is a pathetic attempt to ward off death. While he continues to be anxious about the future, Prufrock now seems to regard the future, paradoxically, from a future standpoint. His refrain of, and would it have been worth it after all, places his actions in such a manner as if he is reviewing actions he has yet to take. Either time has accelerated his aging process, or this look to the past is a way for Prufrock to ponder whether he has made any decisive progress in life. Previously, Prufrock wondered if he should dare disturb the universe and squeeze the universe into a ball. Now, this is a reference to marvels to his coy mistress. Let us roll all our strength and all our sweetness up into one ball and tear our pleasure with rough strife through the iron gates of life. Marvel urges his lady to engage in sex with him as death draws ever closer and their time is running out. Prufrock, on the other hand, knows he is going to die soon, but he still cannot even dare to eat a peach, while Eliot's main intent is to play down Prufrock's anxieties. A simple piece of fruit confuses him. Prufrock's anxiety about eating a peach has much to do with his feelings of sexual inadequacy, his worry that his balding head and thin physique earn him the contempt of women. Prufrock immediately switches his attention to the mermaids, singing age to age, the society of women who ignore him. I have seen them riding seaward on the waves, combing the white hair of the waves blown back. When the wind blows the water white and black, Prufrock wonders, shall I part my hair behind? Earlier he had felt bad about his bald spot, turning his keen eye to the woman's arms down with light brown hair, and said about eating a peach. Mermaids are conventionally depicted combining their hair with a mirror so as to be the symbols of vanity and lush beauty. Wreathed with seaweed red and brown, they possess even more artificial hair. They threaten Prufrock, whose shining hair is perhaps now a mixture of white and black and no longer red and brown. When Prufrock finishes the poem by saying, "We have lingered in the chambers of the sea till human voices wake us and we drown," he comes stepping down finally. He plunges into his own Dantesque underworld. By employing the pronoun we, he forces us to accompany him, hoping, like Da Montefeltro from the epigraph, that we too will not be able to return to the mermaids and shame him by repeating his story. So this is the end of the explanation of the text. And my dear students, if you have subscribed to my channel, it's fine. If you haven't, do subscribe to my channel so that in future you get a lot more about literature. Thank you.